Dear friends, today we have with us the Treasurer of New South Wales, Daniel Mookhey, who is the first person of Indian origin to hold that position anywhere in Australia. He is also the first Member of Parliament to take oath on the Bhagavad Gita. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Pallavi.
Yeah. Daniel, let's begin with your journey because you are a trailblazer in the community. Because there is this feeling that the Indian diaspora is doing very well in a lot of sectors, but politics is, a place where we don't see too many people at, rise to very senior positions. So you are a trailblazer. So let's start with your journey.
Oh, thanks, Pallavi. My parents came to Australia in the 1970s from Punjab, and I was born here. I was born in the western suburbs of Sydney. I was raised in Marylands. I had the opportunity to get engaged in the Labor Party when I was 18, and then I was chosen by my party to enter Parliament in 2015, and then chosen as the Shadow Treasurer in 21. And then when we won the election, the Premier asked me to be the Treasurer as well, and that's how I ended up in the job that I'm in.
And talking about the Indian diaspora here, that's it's seen a significant change in the last decade or so, with now almost I think over 1 million people of Indian heritage in Australia. What do you see, with regards to the contribution of the diaspora? And do you think that in the larger community, now there is more awareness about India and Indians and their contribution to society?
Yeah, I do think there is. When I grew up, basically every person who was from India knew every other person who was from India. The community was that small. My father and my mother helped set up the first Hindu temple in Australia, which is Shri Mandir in Auburn. My father set up the very first Indian newspaper in Australia, which was the 1977 Indian Monitor as well. And the community was tiny. Right? There was one spice shop in Bondi that everybody went to. And then there was a second one that opened in Marylands. And so for myself, I've been seeing the community grow each year, every year, basically throughout my life. And you're quite right to say right now the presence is very big. We have more people of Indian origin becoming Australians than from any other part of the world. Has been that way for a number of years now. In addition to that, we're starting to see the impact that such a large diaspora is having on the Australian community as well. And I think it's terrific. You are seeing more people of Indian origin rise in business, in the civil service, in politics, in sport. It's a good thing. And I think that, of course, as the community develops further and as more people who were born in India have their children born in Australia, like myself, this is only going to grow as a force. And so I think it's really interesting. And I think the pace of change speaks well about Australia, really. It's a very welcoming country. It's a country that respects and rewards people who are prepared to make a contribution.
Yeah, and since you're the treasurer, I have to ask you this: that there has been a cost of living issue in Australia. I mean, even if you look at the consumer price index, it rose sharply over the last few years. It has seen a little bit of a decline, and but if we look at the figures of New South Wales Treasury, I think in June this year it was hovering somewhere around 6.5%, and now with the geopolitical issues that are coming up, there could be potentially impact on the economy here as well. So as a treasurer, what steps have you taken or you may be planning to take so that the situation gets better rather than getting worse?
Yeah, two things we're doing. The way I describe our strategies is that we're offering relief plus reform. We're offering short-term relief. So when it comes to people's electricity costs, right now the government is rolling out energy support vouchers to about 1.6 million households and about 100,000 plus businesses. When it comes to tolls, we're introducing a $60 per week toll cap starting from next year, like we promised to do in the election. That's the relief side, but equally we are focused on reform. So we know full well, particularly for a lot of migrants, who are renting, right now housing is a huge cost of living pressure. And so you're seeing this government make a pretty strong case about the fact that we do need to build more homes. When it comes to tolls, we have asked Australia's toughest customer, Alan Fells, who used to lead the ACCC, to lead the work on reforming it. And at the same time, we are rescuing an energy transition that is in danger of faltering as well, with some new investments through the budget that I delivered, so we can bring that back online and we can get more energy supply into the market to take some pressure off the sharp costs. We've got more to do, but we certainly understand just how hard people are finding it right now.
Yeah, and also given some recent things that have happened, the horrific attacks, the terrorist attacks that happened in Israel, there is a little bit of unease in the community with regards to security. So if there's are there any steps that the government is taking that you can share, so as to give some semblance of security to people, because there is a slight unease about it.
Yeah, and I hear the same unease that's coming from many communities as well right now at this time of heightened tension. Those who are from the Jewish community, those who are from the Islamic community, as well as those who are from the Hindu community as well. So what we're doing as a government is, firstly, we are engaging very heavily with New South Wales Police, and New South Wales Police are engaging very heavily with these communities themselves to make sure that the mosques, that the synagogues, that the mandirs are getting more protection than before. Secondly, before all the recent international tensions in this budget, we did put aside $15 million to enhance security at religious institutions across New South Wales, regardless of faith. So again, we're working with the Hindu Council, and we are working within the Jewish Board of Deputies. We're working with the Imams Council about ensuring that all religious facilities are getting the protections that they need, right, ongoing. And we're doing the same with the churches. It's a good thing that the federal government, in the wake of the recent international tensions, has also announced $40 million of additional support. That's really helpful in the short term. But equally, we are focusing on the security areas, but we all are mindful of the fact that we need to reduce the tensions here too. It's a credit to leaders of all faiths and all persuasions that everyone agrees that we don't want to be importing these international tensions into our cohesive communities. We want to make sure that Australia's reputation as being a very welcoming place and a place where people do get along is maintained throughout these tensions. It's happening right now in the Middle East, but there are other parts around the world who equally go through these events, and we as Australians respond by ensuring that we're not bringing those problems here.
Yeah, and just last two questions, Daniel, where do you see the India-Australia relationship going? Do you reckon that this is going to be a fundamental relationship and a very, very important bilateral relationship, not just for the Indo-Pacific, but for geopolitics internationally speaking as well?
I do. I think this year has been one of the best years for Australian-Indian relations in a very long time. I think the visit of Prime Minister Modi, who I had the opportunity to greet and welcome to Australia when he landed here, was a real impactful visit that really progressed the relationship as well. I think the fact that both Australia and India have concluded a free trade agreement is a game changer. And I'm not just saying that rhetorically. I've had leaders of major Australian businesses come to me in the wake of that agreement saying that they are taking trade missions over to India, and equally they are hosting Indian trade missions here. Myself, I've now had engagement with at least, I think from memory, about 3 trade missions distinctly that have come from India whilst I've become Treasurer. And I know how excited the Australian business community is about furthering these links. I think for a very long time, our people-to-people relations have been excellent, far, far more advanced than our government-to-government links and our business-to-business links. So the way I see it is that both the government links with the Indian governments, both at a state and federal level, are catching up with where the relations are between our citizens. And I think that's a very strong thing. I think that the distinguishing asset that we have as Australians, as we try to engage India, is the strength of our diaspora. And it gives us a huge competitive and comparative advantage in engaging with India that other countries are very envious of and would love to have. And I think that the fact that we have such a growing diaspora is what's going to anchor the relationship over the long term.
Yeah. And lastly, any special plans for Diwali? And how do you feel now that, that Diwali is celebrated at a pretty large scale? And I think there are a lot of members of other communities as well who partake in the celebration. So what do you feel about that?
So a couple of things. So firstly, my son, who's in childcare, is having his Diwali concerts next week. And he is the one kid, there's 2 kids of Indian origin in his childcare. But the fact is, everybody, regardless of faith or background, are performing in a Diwali concert next week, which I'm really looking forward to, which just shows how much it's spreading as a cultural event here in Australia. Personally, my family, we celebrate with, frankly, Jana and Puri. So I'm looking forward to that. And this year I'm cooking the Puris. So I'm looking forward to making sure they're round. Is really what I've been working on for many years, is in order to make a round. And so, because I do a lot of the cooking anyway in my house, so that's for me is what Diwali is synonymous with. And so I'm really looking forward to obviously hanging out with my family as well. I'm hoping in next year to be able to take my kids to India for Diwali, but we'll see how the job goes. It's quite busy as well. But I know so many people will be celebrating next week, and I'm excited. And the week after, yeah.
All right. Yeah. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today, and wish you and your family a very, very happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali to you too. Thanks for having me.